So hey guys, this is the first video that I'm doing with my face in it. I'm sorry it's taken me so long, but this is just a really quick guide to making those pakoras that I put out in the conduit. This month it's just gone out. Excuse my ums, I'm not the greatest public speaker. So I've just, for the purposes of this video, I've just halved the ingredients that are in the published recipe, but it's exactly the same. What I've done is use a set of different vegetables just to show you how versatile it can be. It really doesn't matter what vegetables you use. So today I've got stemmed broccoli, I've got carrots, I've got baby sweet corn, and I've got some part-boiled potatoes that I'm going to be making some pakoras with. So in my bowl here, in front of me, I have got about 100 grams of chickpea flour. Into that I'm just going to add all the ingredients that I've got out here, starting with the dry stuff. So I've got about 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking powder. I have got my reds, which is 1.5 teaspoons of smoked paprika and 3 teaspoons of a mixture of chili powder and mild paprika, just because my little one's going to be having some, so just trying to keep it not too spicy for him. If you want a kick, just make it all chili powder. So that goes in. I've got my cumin coriander mix, again that's about 1.5 teaspoons. Sorry, that's about 3 teaspoons for this recipe. I've got 1.5 teaspoons of cumin seeds. I've got my garlic granules, that's about 1.5 to 2 teaspoons of garlic granules. I really like things garlicky, so that can go in. You can use fresh garlic, obviously. This is just with what I've got in the house today. There's some ginger powder, that's about 1.5 teaspoons. 1.5 teaspoons of turmeric, and 1.5 teaspoons of salt. So they're all your dry ingredients. Just give them a good little stir. You can see that that batter's changed to a lovely colour. Add in your coriander, fresh coriander. Now, a lot of people don't like coriander. It makes their mouth taste funny, and that's absolutely fine. I find with the Indian cooking, fresh coriander has a very different taste to the coriander seed, which can be bitter if not cooked properly, and the coriander and cumin mixed powder that I use, that are also in my spice box. If you're cooked properly, that bitterness and that taste will dissolve. But with fresh coriander, obviously, if you don't like it, just leave it out. Also called cilantro for those Americans out there. So that's in. That's all my dry ingredients. To that, I'm going to add a local chili and ginger cider. I've come across Bridge Farm cider a while back since moving down to the West Country, and I love this stuff, whether it's their standard cider that you drink or their chili and ginger cider. I like using it in cooking. It's also in my signature ginger pig dish that I used to make in the restaurant, and once I'm up in catering again, that will be on menus out there. So the cider's gone in. It's 100 ml of cider, and 100 ml, about 100 ml of water. I'm just going to add the water a little bit at a time, just so that I don't obviously make it too wet. But you do want this batter for this recipe fairly loose compared to what some pakora recipes come out as. Mix that all together. Excuse my cat-handedness with the whisk, but that's just me. That's probably still a bit too thick, so I'm going to add the rest of that water in. So that's been 100 ml of water approximately, and 100 ml of cider. What you want to do is, once that's all brought together, don't overwork it. Can go in there. Just put a lid on it and let it sit. Excuse me, popping down to get a lid. Put a lid on it and let it sit for about 10 minutes, just for that last batter to come together. Right, so my oil is hot enough. I'm just going to test it once more. as you can tell, straight bubble up, and that is good to go. I don't want the bits in. These little droplets of flour and spice mix work really well. I don't know if anybody here likes the crunchy ends in chips. We call them bundi. Not the chip bits, but the sort of fried balls. They're great for a snack and a crunch. I'm just going to grab kitchen roll. I'm not as prepared for this video. Right, so here I'm going to start with my carrots because they're my toughest veg and they're going to take the longest cooking time, and they go straight in to my batter. I'm going to try and keep my hands clean, and I've got some tongs, and they just get a good coating. Make sure they are covered, and you don't want a thick coating, you want to try and keep it as thin as possible, and drop them in. Get any lumps off, because that will just not cook as evenly. And so obviously the thicker ones going first because they'll take slightly longer than the thinner bits. And that way you kind of keep your cooking time even. The heat I have got on this cooker is sort of a medium-high heat on a medium burner. I'm using gas here. Whoop. Trying to get the lumps of batter off because I don't like. So I'm just going to do a few of each of the vegetables that I've got, just so that you've got an idea of how they look when they're cooked, and how long they take. So this is in a sort of real life time. I'll put that on there. So those balls there are great, a little crunch. You've got some colour coming through on those pakoras. Nice kind of deep golden colour. Me and hubby have had debates about what we call golden. But yeah, these are kind of ready. They're the ones that went in first. You want to get the oil kind of hot enough that they cook through in the batter but not burn the pakoras. And with gas it's a bit easier kind of to control what's going on. And if you can scoop out the little bits, like I said, they make great little snacks. So I've got carrots there. I'm going to do the baby sweet corn, so that can go in. This out way. My little one loves baby sweet corn, so when we've got it, or sweet corn just generally, I like to do things with it. At the point of testing your batter, it's actually probably a good idea to taste what you've made. Perfect, you can at that point adjust your salt levels in your batter before you cook off the rest. But some people like a little bit more salt, some people like a little bit more chilli. It's just making sure you've got what works for you. You can make these pakoras up in advance. They're great for a snack when you've got visitors over. If you make them in advance, make sure they're cool, stick them in the fridge, and then to heat them up if you bake them in the oven on about 180 for 15 to 20 minutes, 180 to 190 fan, they will crispen up and they'll heat up enough to serve. And it will also help get rid of some of that excess oil that might be caught up in there. So we've got sweet corn, I've done the carrots, and I've got I've just chopped up some stemmed broccoli here. I've done it with like a sort of a head of broccoli before, just thick florets are great, but these work well as well. Just make sure you've covered that broccoli up, otherwise you'll end up with really burnt crispy bits. And again, if you start with the biggest piece first, by the time you've got to your last piece, the biggest piece should be cooked through. You really don't want too much butter on these. Try not to overcrowd your pan as well, because that will reduce the temperature of oil. So with the bigger pieces, depending on what frying utensil you're using, I do have a deep fat fryer, but it is a very large commercial deep fat fryer, so I don't use it on a daily basis. So at home I've got this little wok that I use for frying, but always keeping an eye on the temperature. Make sure it doesn't get too hot. Got a lovely colour with those. Ooh, let's get that out so it don't burn. You can eat, yeah. I'm going to do a couple more broccoli, and then I'm going to do some potato, and then that will be that for this video in terms of demonstrating the pakoras. Like I said, they're great for making in advance, putting them in the oven or sticking them on the barbie to heat through. When you've got people over in the garden, as we're allowed to do at the moment, and it also means your house isn't smelling of oil. Let me know what you think in the comments box. So while we're heating those up, and cooking those through, I'm just going to grab a knife, just cut into a couple of these so you can see what they look like. You've got really tender, crunchy veg. Down from there. I like to put of chaat masala if you've got it, and if you haven't got chaat masala, just a bit of Maldon salt just over the top. Maldon salt flakes. So I'm still cooking these, as you can tell. And last but not least, I'm going to do some potatoes. I've got some part-boiled chipped potatoes. If you do these directly from raw, the potatoes won't cook through. Like, it's fine with the green veg to have like that crunch on, but obviously with potatoes you just don't want to serve with potatoes. So, sorry, excuse me, concentrating on little potatoes, not really talking at this very moment in time. Don't want to cover, I'm quite often a messy cook and I will cover everything. So really trying desperately on camera not to cover my stove in batter. So potatoes have gone in. Whoop. These will crispen up nicely. Oh, I did add a bit of salt in when I part-boiled the potatoes, because they do just need that little bit of extra salt in there, because they're potatoes and they do suck it out of the batter. So there you go, guys, I will leave it at that. There, my friends, is some pakoras. If you try these, oh, hot. Do let me know what you think. It would just be lovely to have some feedback. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye.